Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast. My name is Jill Foose. I'm a functional medicine and integrative nutrition health coach. I created this podcast to bring you along as we travel down intriguing, science-packed roads, debunking old medical paradigms and perusing new innovative therapies and modalities with the finest functional medicine doctors, practitioners, and like-minded biohackers while living our best life. Enjoy the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Health Trip Podcast. Most women have heard of the word NAD or NAD at this point, either through social media, at a med spa, or maybe from a friend who just got an IV NAD drip and swears she felt amazing. But almost no women that I've talked to actually understand what it is, why it matters, or whether they are being sold something that is real. So here's the simplest possible explanation. NAD is a molecule that exists in every cell in your body. So it's the fuel that powers your cell's ability to produce energy, or ATP, repair damage, fight inflammation, and slow the aging process. Think of it as the electricity running through your body's power grid. Without it, nothing is going to work the way it should. Here's the problem. NAD levels decline significantly with age, just naturally. By your 50s, your NAD levels may be half of what they were in your mid-20s. And in menopause, that decline accelerates because estrogen was quietly supporting your body's ability to produce NAD anyway. So when estrogen goes, NAD production drops with it. You lose two overlapping protective systems simultaneously. So what does that feel like? It could be fatigue that sleep isn't fixing, brain fog, a metabolism that stops responding, a body that feels like it's aging faster than it should, recovery is slow, even while living a healthy lifestyle. The wellness industry has noticed this and predictably responded by selling you something. IV drips, injections, supplement stacks, peptides, hundreds of dollars per session for treatments that may or may not be doing what they claim to do. Most women have no way to know the difference because until now, there was no reliable way to measure what your NAD levels actually are inside your cells. And that is exactly what today's guest has spent his career solving. Dr. She has developed the first test that tells you your actual intracellular NAD levels. So intracellular meaning inside your cell. And that's the real number, not an estimate. Today, we are going to talk about what NAD actually does for midlife women, what the science says about IV drips and supplements, and the best evidence-based ways to raise your levels. So this is a conversation the med spa industry does not want you to hear. Professor She is a leading geneticist, biomedical researcher, and founder and CEO of Jinfiniti Precision Medicine, dedicated to advancing longevity science and precision health. He has over 40 years of academic research experience. His current focus is on aging biology and intracellular NAD metabolism and biomarker-driven strategies to optimize health span and performance. Dr. She has authored nearly 500 peer-reviewed scientific publications, secured over $100 million in research funding, and made significant contributions to genomic and cellular medicine and disease prevention research, particularly in diabetes and its complications, including leadership roles in national and international organizations. Today, he is pioneering innovative solutions that translate decades of scientific discovery into practical strategies for achieving longer, healthier lives. Just a short medical disclaimer before we dive in. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice or to make any lifestyle changes to treat any medical condition in yourself or others. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. And this entire disclaimer also applies to any of my guests on my podcast. So sit back, open your mind, and let's dive into the world of NAD. Hi, Dr. She. Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
I am really excited for this conversation because, as you know, there is a lot of misinformation out there about NAD or NAD. And My community and me, we are just midlife women trying to figure it out. We want to feel better. We are navigating menopause and we are getting bombarded with information out there on what to do, what works, what doesn't work, what's going to fix us. So, you are the king of NAD, and I am positive that the women listening are going to have a lot of golden nuggets to take away from this conversation.
I really look forward to having the conversation with you. And we have been working on NAD for about 10 years, and we have a tremendous amount of data that I'm going to share with you and your audience. I hope this will give them, useful information so they can make the best informed decision to optimize their health.
Absolutely. Let's just start out with what NAD is, or NAD. Women have heard about this. They've gone to medi spas. They've heard friends getting NAD infusions, which we're going to talk about. But what is NAD and what does it actually do inside the body?
Well, simply you can consider NAD as another supplement or a new supplement or vitamins if you want. In scientific term, NAD is considered a core enzyme. A core enzyme is basically a compound or a molecule that helps other enzymes to function. And because NAD is involved in the function of over 400, maybe some people say over 500 different enzymes. So it is involved in almost every single cellular activities in our body. That makes this molecule extremely important. And without it, we basically don't function well.
And so, why do NAD levels decline with age, and how dramatic is that decline?
All right, so it's generally recognized that NAD declines with age, but this is somewhat misunderstood. Actually, a colleague of mine sent me a paper published in a scientific journal last night, and in this paper, it suggested that NAD actually does not decline with age, which is completely a wrong conclusion. So, what we know after testing almost 100,000 individuals, that NAD levels are much higher in very young individuals, especially in toddlers, infants, and all the way till the late teens and early 20s. There is a sharp decline in the around 20, 25 years of age. But individuals in their 30s and 40s, they are already highly deficient. It does continue to decline over time beyond our 40s, but that decline becomes very, very small and very slow. So the decline is really around the 20, 25 years of age. It's very rapid, it's very sharp. Why NAD levels decline? There are two primary reasons. The first one is the demand and the supply imbalance. As we age, we usually have more inflammation, and inflammation can increase the consumption of NAD because some of the molecules involved in inflammation use NAD for its function. So in the process, it consumes or degrades NAD, so it decreases the NAD available in our body. On the other hand, to make NAD by our cells, we need to have the building blocks, or sometimes in the scientific term, we call it precursors. They are basically smaller compounds that the cells use to make a larger molecule, and that's NAD. But the supply is decreasing and the demand is increasing over time. That's why we become more deficient. So that's the first reason. The second reason is in when we have health conditions or any diseases, whether it's infection, cardiovascular issues, or menopause, or metabolic issues, and in those individuals, the NAD levels are usually much lower than their healthy counterparts. And because pathologies or diseases are usually associated with inflammation, with oxidative stress, and a lot of the underlying causes of chronic diseases, and they increase the consumption of NAD as well. So basically, NAD levels are influenced by two major factors, age and health condition. In older individuals and even in very young individuals with health problems, their NAD levels are usually much more deficient.
So it sounds like inflammation is the common denominator in both of these scenarios. Because when you have chronic disease states, you have more inflammation, and then just inflammation alone as we age, which is really interesting to me because if you're like someone like me, and I've been living a healthy, honed in healthy lifestyle since I was 16 years old, I'm now 58. And I took your test, your blood test, which shows your intracellular NAD levels, and mine was deficient. I was a 26 on the scale. Um, and so I took a deep breath and was like, wow, I'm doing all the right things here. I get my sleep, I get my exercise, I lift weights, I do cardiovascular exercising, I keep my stress levels down, I eat a healthy diet, and still just the aging process alone has made my NAD levels decline drastically.
Yes, and I think your decline may be associated with two factors. One may be a little counterintuitive. So, first, energy levels decline with age. We already talked about that.
Right.
But what most people don't know is that athletes, people who exercise, especially if they are engaged in intensive training or exercise, their NAD levels are actually lower than
Mm.
individuals who exercise moderately and or don't exercise. Why? Again, there's inflammation connection. Very intensive exercise or movement can increase inflammation on short-term basis, and the increased inflammation increases the consumption of NAD. And especially those who train very intensively, and usually the NAD levels are quite deficient. So moderate exercise can help maintain a healthier NAD level. But if you are really engaged in intensive training, your NAD level could be even more deficient.
That's so interesting. So I'm thinking about professional athletes right now, right?
Oh yeah.
So their NAD levels must be lower than if they weren't a professional athlete. And so they probably have to use these precursors that we're going to talk about to keep their NAD levels at a normal range.
Absolutely. We have seen this
Mhm.
again and again. We have
Yeah.
a middleweight boxing champion, and he's a boxing champion. He looks very strong, obviously, and his immunity level was 17.
Oh, wow. Okay. I feel a little
17.
better about my 26.
Much worse than your 26. And
Yeah.
he's young. He's in his early 30s. And extremely fit, but because of the intensity of the activities, his immunity level was extremely deficient.
Mhm.
And you can be strong, but you can still be deficient in NAD.
What does low NAD actually feel like, and how can women navigating menopause distinguish between the two?
All right, so when NAD is deficient, you may have a number of possible symptoms or issues, or you may don't have anything. The most common
Mm.
the most common observation is chronic fatigue, and we all uh, get tired in the afternoon. I'm 64. I'm 60 years older than you are. I have gone through this for almost 30 years. I'm tired, and usually in the afternoon or in the evening, and most people don't know why they get tired. The number one reason why we are tired all the time is NAD deficiency. There are other reasons as well, but if you are tired all the time, and that's a pretty good indication of NAD deficiency. And if you have sleeping issues, that can be partly caused by NAD deficiency, or in some extreme cases, even in women with infertility issues, their NAD levels are deficient because in the ovary. And that's because of increase the inflammation in the ovary that increase consumption for NAD and then results in NAD deficiency. And we have a number of clinics that are actually using NAD, our NAD optimization protocols to help women to become pregnant. And we actually have someone here locally that I helped, and she tried for over 10 years and couldn't get pregnant. But we put her on two simple supplements, the NAD and the creatine, by the way, that we talk about before this
Hmm.
recording. And with these two supplements, and she got pregnant now about 4 months ago. So, but for a lot of people, you may not have obvious symptom
Hmm.
and when you are deficient in NAD.
Yeah, because when I think about the menopause transition and I think about chronic fatigue, brain fog, poor sleep, slow recovery, maybe reduced resilience, we think about those as menopause symptoms. No woman out there is that I've ever talked to is thinking about NAD levels.
Right. If you look at the symptoms from NAD deficiency versus decreased estrogen levels during perimenopause and postmenopause, there's a tremendous overlap between
Hmm.
these two. Now, estrogen deficiency can exacerbate NAD deficiency. And but it's the stack of the two issues. When you are NAD deficient and now you are deficient in estrogen, the problems become even worse than when you have only deficiency in one. And unfortunately, many almost every single adult is suboptimal or deficient in NAD starting in their 30s, and that becomes even worse. Then on top of that, you lose estrogen and other hormones. The problem is just not only additive. I mean, they multiply each other. They make the problem even worse. So the what we need to do is to optimize both NAD levels, and obviously we want to replace the hormones that women need. And you want to do both, and one may not be certainly is not sufficient.
Well, I can tell you that I've been on menopause hormone therapy for 10 to 15 years. I've been on testosterone therapy for 25 years. And so I can tell you that I still experience some fatigue, a lot of brain fog, actually. My sleep is really good, but slow recovery. So I'm still experiencing some symptoms of menopause, even 10 years out as a postmenopausal woman. And that's alongside taking menopause hormone therapy. And now I'm thinking about women who aren't good candidates for menopause hormone therapy, like a woman who is navigating breast cancer, and that might not be an option for her. Or there's a lot of women out there who don't want to take menopause hormone therapy. You know, there's less than 5% of the women in the United States are taking menopause hormone therapy, but because of that WHI study back in the early 2000s, it really put a kink in women's trust with the healthcare system and taking hormones. And I'm wondering for those populations of women, if optimizing their NAD would help make them feel better regardless of taking menopause hormone therapy.
You are absolutely right. And whether a woman takes hormone replacement therapy or not, and when their NAD is optimized, and they are going to get many benefits. Can it solve all problems? Probably not, but it can solve so many problems that most individuals are going to feel much better. And we know that getting NAD optimized, you can make the other health protocols or programs they are taking to work even more efficiently. So I call NAD optimization a cornerstone of all wellness and health protocols. That's because all cells need energy, and in the molecule for cellular energy is called ATP. Some of your listeners may know what it is, some may not. The bottom line is ATP is what powers our cells and our body to function. Now, the production of ATP is absolutely dependent on having enough NAD in the cells. Without NAD, you cannot produce 95% of the energy that our cells need. That's how important the NAD is. When you optimize the energy production, you improve mitochondrial function, and you also reduce the oxidative stress, or sometimes called free radicals, and that reduces inflammation. So NAD is a fundamental nutrient that all adults should consider. We have tested, almost 100,000 samples. We only found two individuals, two adults who don't take any NAD treatment and have optimal NAD levels. Only two out of tens of thousands of adults. So almost every single adult is deficient in NAD levels, and we know when we get their NAD optimized, over 90% of them will get a number of potential benefits.
That is incredible. And I think it really speaks to the importance of advocating for yourself. I'm always talking about women having to advocate in the clinician office for more testing. Now, NAD testing is not something that is on your annual blood work panel. As it, I think it should be, and I'm sure you think it should be too, and
Yeah.
maybe someday it will be that way. But how can a woman who's navigating menopause, especially, go into her provider's office and ask for NAD testing? Or is this something that you're not going to find in mainstream healthcare? It's going to be in sort of the private, smaller, integrative functional medicine clinics.
Yeah, so NAD test is not covered by insurance,
Yeah.
and it's not available in the clinics that take insurance. And you can go to a local wellness or functional medicine clinic, or even a health coach, and ask for an NAD test, or you can come directly to Jinfiniti and get the test or ship it to you. It's very simple. It's a simple finger prick and that you can do at home. That's the easiest way to do it for someone who does not see a functional medicine doctor or integrative medicine doctor. And unfortunately, most of the functional medicine clinics are still not carrying the test yet. We're trying to educate them as fast as we can, but still, most still don't have it. If you ask for the test, they will probably come to us and start carrying the test.
Hmm.
We were the first company that developed NAD test about 6 years ago, and we are still one of the very few, maybe one of the three companies in the US that can conduct NAD tests. And I'm pleased to say that we pioneered NAD testing and NAD optimization, and we have a tremendous amount of data that can be very useful. Testing is obviously important, but how to use the test to get NAD optimized is even more important than just testing.
Yeah.
Testing is not useful if you cannot take action and get the problem solved. And that's why we focus on how to deliver the health outcome. And testing is only a tool, not the goal.
Well, let's expand on that. So I went and I took your blood test, and mine wasn't a fingerprint, by the way. You gave me one where I had to go to my doctor and have blood taken. So is it two ways to look at it, the fingerprint and getting blood work drawn?
Well, we give you your test was a premium test with 50 different biomarkers
Oh, right.
that covers all the major categories of biomarkers, inflammation, and the zombie cells, the oxidative stress, inflammation, and all the hormones and micronutrients. So it's much more comprehensive. That requires a blood draw, and anyone can get the test you did from us as well. And we'll send a mobile phlebotomist to their home to get the
Hmm.
blood, and it will be shipped back
Right.
to us. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And that's a little more involved, and it's a lot more expensive, unfortunately, because there are so many
Yeah.
biomarkers we have to test. But if for someone who want to have a simple start and just to see what they can do, what outcome they can get, and starting with the NAD test and getting NAD optimization done, that's a good start. And that already gives, I think, just by getting the NAD optimized, we can solve about 60-70% of the problems. And if you want to solve 100% of the problems or close to 100% of the problems, we have to do much more comprehensive testing. And for someone who, wants to have a holistic approach, and the comprehensive testing is the way to go. But if they're not sure whether they want to take on so many different things, start with the NAD optimization protocol, and which is very,
So
very simple to do.
So, a midlife woman, she gets the fingerprint test, she gets back her results. They're like mine. It's a 26, it's in the deficient range. And you just talked about how important it is to not just get the test and learn your number. That's just one part of it. But
Mhm.
now it's what to do due to this decline, due to this deficiency. What do you tell her at that point?
All right, so there are over 20 different ways that can potentially increase or optimize NAD levels. And there are all kinds of products that are on the market on Amazon or from the clinics, and it goes from NAD IV intravenous infusion to patches to nasal spray to subcutaneous injection and to oral supplements. So different companies have tried all these different approaches. And we actually have data on almost every single way of delivering NAD product. And we know which ones work and which ones don't work at all. It's all over the map. I'll just give you some examples that are popular. NAD IV, clinics and influencers, they are pushing NAD everywhere. But NAD does not increase NAD inside the cells at all.
Why is that?
Well, there are many reasons, and the number one reason is we are not giving enough. And you give NAD through the IV, and the molecule is too big, it cannot get inside the cells, and it's degrading within 24 hours. And if you want to get an NAD IV to work, you almost have to get an IV every day, and that may have a chance. And
Also, it's very painful, I heard.
it's very painful. It's time consuming, and a substantial proportion of users actually have bad reactions, and it's it's very expensive, and
Yeah.
and it's not effective. Really, it's not the something that anyone really wants to try. And then I'll just give you the best option. The best way to increase NAD levels is oral NAD precursors. There are two good NAD precursors. One is called NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. The other one is called NR, nicotinamide riboside. And there has been, heavy debate as to which one is better. And our data show that both precursors can work very well. And I personally prefer NMN a little better because it's more effective, and also the functional benefits seem to be better than what we can get from NR. But NR can work. The biggest difference is between great formulation with multiple ingredients that can work together to deliver optimal NAD levels, but also to revitalize cellular function. And many companies are selling just pure NR or pure NMN. Yes, they can increase NAD levels by about 40 to 50% with the best product you can find. But with a good formulation, like the one that we have, I think you are taking that, and we actually can increase NAD levels on average by 150%. We know on a population level, on average, we need to double the NAD levels to deliver the best outcome. So when a product only increase levels by 40, 50%, that's not enough for many, many individuals. And in respect of what a product that someone's going to take, you really want to get the levels measured, ideally before supplementation, especially after supplementation, because how much we need it depends on the person, and how much I need versus how much you need can differ by threefold. Some individuals may only need 500 milligrams of NMN, others may need 1500, even 2000 milligrams. So without testing, we cannot predict how much each person needs. The way that we personalize the dosing is through the retesting program,
Right.
depending on
Right.
where you are.
So I took the test with you. I know my number. I am committed to taking your supplements, and then I'm going to retest in what did you say, 6 weeks or 8 weeks?
Yeah, 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay. So I'm
Uh,
going to test again because here's the thing. You and I both know the supplement industry is a $1 billion industry. As a health coach, I can tell you that I work with women navigating menopause who bring me lists of supplements that they are on, like, 20, 30 supplements. And when we go through each and every one of them and I say, who was the one who told you to take this? What was it based on? Did you have blood work done? Do you know why you're taking this? They have no idea. I hear things from my friend at the gym told me that she takes this supplement and it's really done wonders for her. So I'm taking it too.
mhm.
Meanwhile, these supplements are costing women hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year to stay on things that might be the wrong dose, the right form of the supplement based on their genetics. And they might not even need it because they don't know what their micronutrient status is. So I think it's amazing that you do the testing before and you also want to do the testing after because there has to be a buy-in for the consumer. The consumer has to see that it is working and that it is worth their money and their time and their energy because taking supplements is also about being compliant. When you take your supplements, they work. When you don't take them on a consistent basis, they don't work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so the common perception is that supplements are not supposed to work. And I want to correct that statement because supplements can work very well, but most supplements on the market don't work because, well, at least one of the three reasons. The first one is uh, most people usually don't know what supplements they need the most and what they are deficient in. So that's why you have to test to see, what you are deficient and what you need the most. So if you take something that you don't need to supplement, then the supplement is not going to do anything for you, right?
Right.
The second one is we don't know the right dosing. And you, the same dose may do wonders for someone, but it can be harmful to another person. So we really have to figure out what's the right dosing. The third point is in most situations, one supplement may not be sufficient. You want to consider the right combination of supplements based on the issues you want to deal with. And when you take the right combination of supplements, the right dosing for the what you need, uh, uh, supplementation can really change people's lives. And for me, for example, I am now doing better at 64 than my middle 30s. And there are so many improvements, so many conditions that have been solved, like my tennis elbow, my sciatica, my back pain. But the most obvious improvement is my tennis game. I play better tennis at 64 than when I was 35. I had
That's
to take
fantastic.
I had to take Tylenol to play tennis in my middle 30s.
Mhm.
And now I can play 3, 4 hours without stop. And I can play, 2, 3 times a week. And I do play at least twice a week, every week.
Mhm.
And I don't, the recovery is much faster. And endurance has improved, recovery has improved. And these are just examples. I had asthma for 2 decades. And I used to take asthma coat every day
Mhm.
for 2 decades, and now it's completely gone. I don't need any asthma medicine. My daughter, she's 10, she has allergies as well, and simply we give her two two simple supplements. One is the NAD, another one is a natural antihistamine that contains quercetin and fisetin and a few other ingredients. With these two supplement combinations, it works beautifully to relieve allergy for most people. And for me, my daughter, and a lot of our friends and our customers. So you know, again, coming back, find out what you need, find out the right dose, find out the right combination of supplements to solve the problems that you have. That's
Yeah.
the right way to use supplements for health outcomes.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah. Dr. Shi, you talked about NMN and NR as being the two precursors that you know and have studied that are going to move the dial on NAD levels intracellularly. And I want to just clarify for our listeners that our body makes NMN and NR, and are we just deficient in those as well? Or are those things we can get from food? What other ways are there to get that?
So NMN and NR and a few other compounds related to NAD are all present in our body, and they are a natural part of our cells. So again, as we age or as our health deteriorates, the amount of NMN, NR, and other precursors available to the cells decrease. And can you get them from food supplies? The answer is yes and no. Yes, you can get some, but no, you don't. You cannot get enough.
Hmm.
You can eat very healthy whole foods and organic, whatever. You are just not going to get enough NMN or NR. You can supplement for some other vitamins like nicotinamide is a form of niacin, B3, and you can also take a tryptophan. Tryptophan is a NAD precursor as well. But these compounds are not very effective to be converted to NAD, or they can have some of them can have a harmful effect. The example is niacin, nicotinic acid, right? Niacin is actually fortified into our foods, and niacin actually is a very potent NAD precursor, meaning that it can be used to convert into NAD very effectively. But the problem is, for those individuals who take a high dose of niacin, there are a number of potential health issues. The number
Hmm.
one is insomnia. Now, niacin is a supplement and is also a prescribed drug to reduce cholesterol level.
Hmm.
And now we know that it can reduce cholesterol very effectively, but it actually does not really provide cardiovascular benefits. The
Hmm.
reason that we know now is because it can cause vascular inflammation and it can increase cardiovascular risk by increasing we call them metabolites, basically smaller compounds formed NAD, and they can increase vascular inflammation.
Hmm.
So niacin can be very effective in increasing NAD levels, but the health benefit is not obvious.
Yeah.
So, and you really want to balance the benefits and potential harm.
Risk.
If you don't
Hmm.
use the right product, even though you may increase NAD levels, but the health benefit is not there. We
Yeah.
have a number of, we tested a number of individuals who take a high dose of niacin, and their NAD levels are way, way too high, extremely high, and too high is at a harmful level. They don't get the benefits that they are supposed to get from NAD, even though their NAD levels are extremely high. So that's why we have to get the levels into the optimal range. Not too low, but also not too high. That's
Let's talk about the levels. So I'm at a 26, that put me in the deficient range. How is this measured and where is that optimal level? What's the goal for all of us?
why. That's great question. And uh, the levels that we want everyone to be is at least 40 micromolar. But ideally, I'll give you the ideal range. It's from 55 to 80. All right. So you're at 26. We will have to double your current level at least.
And how long will that take when I'm taking the supplements?
For some people, 2 weeks. For some others may take 4 weeks. So that's
Mm.
why we can start retesting in around 4 weeks. It does not take a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround.
It's a quick turnaround, and the important point is I get asked all the time is, well, once I get my NAD optimized, can I stop taking the supplement?
Mm.
Unfortunately, the answer is no, because once you stop taking the supplement, our NAD levels go down by about 5% every day. It takes about 4 weeks
Wow.
to go back to baseline. You don't become more deficient, but you will go back to baseline. NAD supplement is like a food, and you need it to make the body needs, but when you don't supply the right ingredients, and the cells stop making them, and the levels will naturally go down.
So this is, I talk about menopausal women rebuilding their supplement toolkit. And what does that look like? And some of these supplements they take based on blood work, based on their levels, based on their genetics, might be forever supplements. For me, I know I'm going to be on vitamin B complex forever. I'm going to be on trace minerals forever. I only have half a thyroid. I also experience hair loss for 25 years. So I know certain pharmacological treatments are going to be forever ones for me. So to me, this is just about rebuilding your toolkit, rebuilding what your lifestyle is going to look like. And it's not easy to do lots of things at once, but by doing a little bit each, every month or every 3 months, whatever it is for you, and just building in these healthy habits. And one of these might be getting your NAD tested, taking the supplements, and committing to that for the rest of your life.
You're absolutely right. So what I often to tell my friends and my clients is that you make a decision, make a commitment
Yeah.
to your health based on your own will and sometimes a financial situation. Decide on, here is my budget, here are my goals. And as professionals like you and myself, our job is to help them to make the wisest and most effective decision as to what they
Yes.
should do based on the constraints that they have, either
Mhm.
financial or otherwise, because some protocols are pretty demanding and not everyone wants to do it. So
Right.
I consider my job is how to help them to make the best out of what they want to do. That's my only
Right.
job. My job is not
Right.
to tell them you need to do this, you need to do that. And my job is to listen to them and what they want to achieve and what they are willing to commit. Once we know
Exactly.
these two, we help them to make the best choice as to, here is the number one thing you need to do. Here's number two. Here's
Right.
number three. Here's number four. Usually, I want them to fix 3 issues at a time only, because when you deal with way too many issues, everyone
Yeah.
gets lost and you
Yeah.
you you get disappointed. But if you
Right.
can focus on the top 3 issues and get the desired outcome, we can give them much more vitality. We can extend their health span tremendously. This is
Yeah.
a lifelong commitment. Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, it has to be, there has to be a commitment. It's not 1 month, 2 months
Right.
activity, and
Right.
you have to become. So we tell everyone that you have to be P and C. That's our inside joke. That's persistent and consistent. That's how
Hmm.
you can get the best outcome. You
Right.
cannot just do it for a few weeks or a few months and then forget about it. I hope everything will be fine. No, this is
And
not how it
I
works.
also want the listeners to know that they cannot forget about their lifestyle, right? Proper sleep and nutrition, exercise, managing your stress, feeling like you are part of a community. Those are all pillars, the foundational pillars that we need. All this other stuff is the extra stuff that we also need, but without those foundational pillars, nothing's going to work as well as it could.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And we can achieve better health without paying anything or close to nothing. These are the life choices that you talk about.
Yeah.
And those can help us to achieve much better health outcomes. But also we want to keep in mind that simple lifestyle alone will not maximize the benefit. It's the
Right.
foundation, it's necessary, it's essential.
Yeah.
But you may want to go the extra step, especially when it comes to micronutrient deficiencies. There's no other way to get rid of the problem without supplementation. The problem
Yeah.
is really in our food supply, and our food source is dramatically depleted for the micronutrients that are so essential to
Hmm.
our cellular function.
Yeah.
The very basic ones, magnesium, selenium, and magnesium and vitamin D and vitamin C and
Yeah.
antioxidants
Right.
and obviously NAD is one of the key micronutrients as well, but there are many others,
Yes.
B
Yes.
vitamins,
Yep.
and these we a lot of nutritionists would argue that, well, you can eat healthy and you can get them enough. My experience is it it's very, very hard to get enough micronutrients from our food supply.
I want to circle back to the ways in which are available to increase our NAD levels. Are NAD injections any different, like the subcutaneous versus IV infusions? What does the science say about that?
So IV infusion, it does not work.
Okay. Done.
Subcutaneous injection depends on how much and how often that one injects. So with most of the protocols, they inject about 3 times a week, 50 milligrams of NAD plus. That's how most people do it. In that situation, the average increase of NAD level is about 30%. Remember,
So a little lower than taking the precursors of NMN or NR.
yeah, if you take a pure NMN and NR, the average increase is about 40 to 50%. And you remember, you need to double, at least double the level for most individuals.
Right.
So either you have to increase the frequency of injection or the dosing of injection, or you can combine with oral precursors on the days that you don't inject, or you just go with the oral supplements. So these are the choices available.
What I'm really hearing from you is the NAD. IV infusions do not work. They cost a lot of money. It's an unregulated area and they're easily accessible and they're being marketed, especially to the menopausal woman who is experiencing a lot of symptoms. And this is not something that you would recommend. This is
No, I don't.
a
I
waste of
don't.
money.
I don't recommend the NAD IV at all. You can get much more and much better benefits from NAD by using a oral precursor.
Yeah. So while you were talking earlier, I was thinking about the connection between NAD and skin health. A lot of women are experiencing
Yeah,
skin changes.
yeah.
And what is that connection between NAD and skin? And is that something where women will see more skin cell turnover, healthier skin, less wrinkles, less aging skin?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. And so a lot of individuals see better skin health, and the reasons are there are three possible reasons. The first one is it make your skin cells more healthy by improving mitochondrial function by providing energy. And the second, maybe four, means the second reason is it can reduce what we call cellular senescence, sometimes zombie cells. Zombie cells are just aging cells that are supposed to be removed from our body by a natural process. But in certain situations, this damaged old cells, they don't get clear. They stay there. They don't do any function, but they secrete a lot of molecules that are bad to our health, including inflammatory proteins. And so by increasing NAD, you can reduce senescence and you can reduce inflammation, right? The third mechanism is oxidative stress or free radicals. And senescence, inflammation, and free radicals are the top reasons why our skin cells don't are not healthy. And so these are the potential ways that you can make your skin look better and become healthier. And many of the major brands are using a compound called nicotinamide
Mhm.
in their creams. And the selling point is to increase NAD levels. That's why they put the nicotinamide into the cream. But nicotinamide is a very poor NAD precursor. It only increases NAD levels in about 30% of the individuals. And the increase is minimum 20 to 30%. So it actually does not work at all, even at a very high dose. And so how much nicotinamide in a cream is helping, I'm not sure. So that's why I think by taking a NAD oral precursor, you are revitalizing the skin cells from the inside out, while any kind of topical, the cream, are working from the outside in. So a combination of the inside out and outside in will probably give people the best outcome.
I am so glad to hear you say this because you're right. A lot of these skincare products do contain nicotinamide. In fact, I used to use under eye patches that contain nicotinamide alongside with caffeine and maybe some other ones to reduce puffiness and to make your skin just feel a little bit more brighter around your eyes, but it didn't really do anything. And I remember going to
Yeah.
see my eye doctor and asking him about it, and he said it's absolute BS. It doesn't work. Don't waste your money on it anymore.
No, I call it a marketing scam because
Yeah.
no one knew how well nicotinamide works in terms of increasing NAD. I'm the only one who has actual data on how well it works, or it doesn't work. So I would not waste money on a nicotinamide based cream. It's not better than your regular cream.
So if we see creams out there for our face that say NAD optimized face cream for women, we should definitely not buy it.
No, I wouldn't spend the extra money to buy a so-called NAD cream. And I know there are a few companies who actually have come to me and to test their product, and I'm really saying I don't
Yeah.
I cannot see any results.
I have one more question for you, Dr. Shi. There's a population of women who are navigating menopause who are being diagnosed for the first time in their lives with ADHD, or women who already have ADHD and are in menopause and their symptoms are exacerbated. Does increasing NAD levels have any connection to ADHD or better brain function?
Better brain function for sure. We have plenty of data. You can improve memory. You can improve cognitive function. You can help patients with dementia. And we actually have data on children with ADHD. I do not have data on adults with ADHD. And this population, I would love to work with them and see what outcome we get.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have data on this particular population.
Okay. Well, Dr. Shi, thank you so much for coming on to the Health Trip podcast. What an incredible conversation. I know that the women are going to walk away with a lot of golden nuggets here. Just start really just thinking about NAD and hopefully becoming more curious about where they're going to get the most bang for their buck, because there's a lot of options out there and a lot of misinformation. So I'm going to list all of your information in our show notes. So again, thank you so much for your expertise and for the work that you do. And it's such an interesting conversation. And I'm very excited about my own NAD journey, and to have you alongside as my collaborative expert partner is very reassuring. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope the information is useful to your audience.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Lifestyle changes can be hard and overwhelming to make. By building your support team of functional medicine doctors, therapists, and health coaches, you can reach your optimal health goals. Be sure to check out my other podcasts. Until we meet again, stay healthy.